upstate.
It was a battle of the Blue Bloods versus the New Bloods. The five-star guys versus guys who drive cheap cars. Indiana, Curt Cignetti and Fernando Mendoza proved that a ragtag bunch of three-star players, most of them from a G5 team, could take down the mighty Miami Hurricanes, who splurged on every single extravagant player they could get their hands on, even playing a quarterback that graduated 2 years ago. How's that legal? How does that even happen? Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. Tolos, we're here reacting to the national championship game last night, and oh my, did it deliver. It was fantastic. Had a little bit of everything. Great defense in the first half, a wild finish, blocked punts for touchdowns, great plays on fourth downs, fourth in the seasons. It was so good.
Diesel, it was amazing. It was a fantastic game, but I have a question for you on this Tuesday as we have a big show lined up. But I've got to know before we start, where can I buy? I know VHS is a thing of the past, right? Where do I buy tape at? Like, I know where I can get duct tape, Scotch tape, pipe tape, plumbing tape. Where do I buy tape, like, to watch? Where do I go to buy that, purchase that? Do you know? Where can I buy tape at?
I don't know. What do you mean? What do you mean by tape?
I was told, you were told, I was told that we needed to watch more tape.
Oh,
so
right.
I just want to know on this Tuesday, because we were off yesterday, where do I go to purchase this said tape?
Who was it that told us we needed to watch more tape? Who told us
I think it was the Miami Hurricane fan
Racking
that told
my
us
brain.
We don't know ball. We hadn't watched the tape.
Miami's too good.
Miami's too good.
They're too
what
big.
Do we know?
They're too fast.
Diesel, what do you and I know? I don't know. All I know is you and I this weekend went not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5-0 in our picks that we did on Friday. So if anybody can help me out on this Tuesday, the phone number is 844-326-3663. I need to know where to buy this said tape. Where do I buy it? I need help on this Tuesday.
It was so good. Indiana won in the stands. They won on the field, and they won in our hearts.
Yes.
Because I don't know how many people, Cole, were rooting for Miami in this game. Certainly the people of South Florida were rooting for this game, but do you really think Seminole fans were rooting for Miami?
No.
Do you think Gator fans were rooting for Miami? No.
I don't know if Miami fans were rooting for Miami.
Well,
did you see the crowd?
Yeah,
it was red.
It was raucous and red for sure.
In their home stadium. How embarrassing and pathetic. You are literally hosting the national championship game, and Indiana just blows the doors off. There's way more red last night in that stadium than there was orange and green. That was pathetic.
Around 500,000 people live in the city of Miami. The region is gigantic. Miami-Dade County is 2.8 million people.
That's a lot of people.
And you're telling me that Miami Hurricane fans in the realm of like 45,000 fans couldn't show up to a game?
No, I think there were more people at the Heat game over the weekend. Seriously, and then there were Miami fans at their own national championship. No, you're right, though. It was a great game. I texted you, and you were texting, back and forth, and that was all I wanted. I did not want it to be a blowout, Diesel, and I think it lived up to it. All kidding aside, Indiana did win, but Miami showed up, came to play, but you've got to play 4 quarters against Indiana, and doing that is easier said than done.
The vibes in that stadium were phenomenal last night. Did you hear how loud that final drive was when Miami had the ball? Yeah. And ultimately, Carson Beck threw a pick like a lot of people expected might happen in this game. Carson Beck throws a pick. It was deafening. It was deafening for Indiana in that game. And that's also proof to Miami fans what can happen in a stadium shaped like that. You realize how much noise that overhanging roof traps into that stadium? It was amazing.
Yeah.
The vibes were immaculate. There were dignitaries and celebrities and adult film stars in attendance. President Trump was there. Marco Rubio was there. Mark Cuban was there. Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Abella Danger, so many people. Michael Irvin was there. I'm not sure Michael Irvin knew he was there.
Maybe not.
I think he might have flown
Maybe
honestly,
not.
without the use
Like
of plane.
literally. I
Yeah.
got you.
He was on one, my friend. It was such a great event.
It was.
You can never be sure. You can never be sure that you're going to get a good national championship game. Just as we saw Indiana blow the doors off Alabama and then blow the doors off of who was it they beat? Oregon prior to that. You never quite know for sure. And it felt like, oh man, are we moving towards like a 17-10 kind of game?
Yeah.
Which for a lot of fans, that's great. That's fine. That's good football and good defensive football. But man, this thing opened up in the second half, and it was awesome.
It was, and you're right. It did start a little slow. And before we dive deep into the game, Diesel, I'll say this. The only complaint I had last night, and I tweeted this out, and number one, being on a Monday sucks. I don't care if it's always been on a Monday. I don't care. I hate that. It is the worst day of the week to play the national championship. And then, the commercials. So here's the way it worked. Kickoff, commercial. First play, commercial. Third down, commercial. Punt, commercial. Quarter in, commercial. 2 minutes. I mean, it felt like in halftime, I think I fell asleep during halftime, woke up, thought the game was over, and it was still halftime. It was the longest halftime in the history of halftimes last night. But you're right. The second half delivered. Miami played a really good second half. But, Diesel, I go back to one play in particular. You know what I think changed that game? I think the special teams play, the block punt for a touchdown, is what changed that game and just kind of gave Indiana just enough because Miami was surging in the second half. And we were talking about it before the show started. If that game lasted 15 minutes longer, if there were another quarter, I think Miami wins because they were playing better than Indiana in the second half, right? They scored 21 points in the second half. But ultimately, to beat Indiana, Diesel, you've got to play them for 4 quarters.
Well, and things certainly changed when, help me out here, the Miami defender that was out for the first half because he was called for targeting in the previous game.
Yeah.
When he came back in the game, it was a different story. It was like those Indiana receivers started dropping balls that they're not used to dropping, and the defense got tighter. It got better. But you're right. I mean, you look back at that Oregon game and you see that Indiana got stops, especially in critical situations inside the other team's red zone. That turnover of Dante Moore that turned into a touchdown for Indiana. And you kind of had the feeling that they were going to have another moment kind of like that. And boy, did they on the blocked punt for a touchdown. It was incredible.
Well, they had their chance. Miami did very into the game. Here comes Carson back. And Diesel, we were all watching, as Miami had already scored 14 points in the fourth quarter of play. Here comes Carson Beck, and that interception, I hate that Carson Beck's career had to end that way, but the biggest moment and the biggest stage that you could possibly dream up, Carson Beck put the ball in the wrong team's hand.
Yeah, he
right?
did.
I think he actually had the receiver separating on that route toward the end zone, just underthrown football, and obviously that was the game. But I'll tell you what, man, my biggest takeaway last night, and I continued to be surprised by this, and I tweeted it out too, Diesel. I could not believe the commitment to the run of Indiana last night. It just seemed like they didn't care if it worked, if it didn't work. We were going to run the football. Kaelon Black, 17 carries. Roman Hemby, 18 carries. By the way, Kaelon Black, that guy from Maryland, oh my gosh, that kid's nasty.
James Madison transferred, by the way.
So from JMU to Maryland
and JMU, he transferred from JMU to Indiana.
Oh.
And JMU fans were very quick to point out that Kaelon Black wasn't even among the top 3 of their best running backs over the past couple of seasons, Cole.
Yeah.
That's what's wild. And by the way, a texter, you can do this if you want to. It's up to you.
Oh, Hemby was the Maryland transfer.
Texter says Cole and half the audience owes Diesel an apology because basically a group of 5 team just went undefeated and won the national championship with all those JMU transfers.
Right, Texter. You're 100% right. Hit the nail on the head. I mean, what a great text that was.
He'll never apologize for it, Texter, but I can feel it. I just want you to know that I know Cole is sorry. He just won't say those
what
words.
A dumb text that is. But nonetheless, that duo of Hemby and Black last night, their commitment to running the football opened up and paid dividends at time for them, Diesel. At times, Miami shut them down. I mean, Indiana ran the football last night, but it was because they decided that that's all they were going to try to do. They ran it, let's see here. Indiana ran it last night for 110 total. I'm sorry, that's Miami. Indiana ran at 131 total yards last night, Diesel. You know how many times they ran the football last night? 45 times. You talk about a commitment to running the football. In a national championship game, you run the football 45 times. It works sometimes. It doesn't work. But guess what? Even against the front, as good as Miami's defensive front was, when you have that level of commitment to the run game, it's going to work sometimes. It's not going to work sometimes. I just applaud Indiana for saying, hey, look, we're going to commit to the run game if it works or not.
You know who the real MVP of that team is? Besides Fernando Mendoza for having that amazing touchdown run,
Sure.
Besides whoever it was that blocked that punt and got into the end zone, it's Indiana's punter. Do you realize that they pinned Miami inside the 24 times?
Yeah.
Kirk Herbstreit put this stat out there last night. He said Miami's offense started on their 12, their 7, their 19, and their 8. So inside the 15-yard line three times, inside the 10 twice. I mean, for crying out loud, that is amazing
Diesel,
job in the field position game.
That's what it was in the first half. I don't know if fans realize. I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about that a lot last night during the first half of that game. In the second half, it opened up in terms of offense, but in the first half of that game, it's just a chess match. That's what it is. Because there were only 10 points scored altogether, right? It was 10-0 at the half. But you're right. It was a game of field position in that first half. Miami, a couple of times, got out near the 50 in the first half. Then, I don't know if you remember, they got out near midfield in the first half. They had that penalty that backed them up 10 yards. You talk about critical penalties in a national championship game. In the first half, think about this. They have the football near midfield, right? Okay, let's say if the drive ends there. They're going to be able to take that and punt it and pin Indiana within their own 10, 15-yard line. Instead, Diesel, guess what happens? They have that penalty. They're backed up to like their own 35 now, a loss of a few yards, and they end up punting. Indiana gets great field position around the 40-yard line. So you're 100% right. Field position in that game last night was so critical. And I think in the first half, Indiana won the field position battle and was able to capitalize that 10-0 lead at halftime. And then you fast forward, and Zach brought it up on the stream, the play of all plays, the Fernando Mendoza. Well, let me back up. The gutsy 4th and 5 decision by Curt Cignetti to say, you know what? We're going to go for it. By the way, he did that twice on that drive. You remember that?
Yeah.
And then that run.
He ain't got stones. He's got boulders.
I'm telling you, there's no way I'd have done that. And then Fernando Mendoza, they were breaking it down this morning on Get Up. The coverage that Indiana saw, played by the Miami defense, gave Fernando Mendoza a little bit of running room to the right. And then he just makes that insane play, spins, and scores a touchdown, Diesel. That last night, that one play by Fernando Mendoza, that'll go down as one of the all-time great plays in national championship history.
Yeah, that means all the people who've been saying Diego Pavia should have won the Heisman. Shut up.
Shut up.
He didn't deserve it. Fernando Mendoza deserved it. You know who didn't deserve it? Carson Beck.
No.
Because Carson Beck, Cole, here's a crazy stat. Carson Beck lost just 6 games in his career as a starter in college football.
Pretty good.
4 of those ended on an interception when they had an opportunity to win the game. So single score games, throwing interceptions. I said it last week. You said it last week. A lot of people said this last week. They just don't trust Carson Beck in these big-time situations, and this is why. He has thrown 4 game-ending interceptions with an opportunity to go win the game.
Well, I'll be frank with you. I was a little nervous at that point.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I was thinking, crap, they've got the ball. I mean, you and I were texting
They did it against Ole Miss.
Right.
Why wouldn't you think they could do it again?
You know what, though? To your point about those game-tying or game-winning opportunities, Diesel, it felt like that Miami defense was gonna have to win the game last night because, yeah, Carson Beck, good quarterback. He made some really good throws last night. He did. But at the end of the day, Carson Beck, I don't know that Carson Beck has that it factor, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know that he has that.
I tweeted out probably early in the fourth quarter that Miami needed a pick 6 and a huge offensive play in the last 20 minutes or it was over because it would have been 5 minutes to go in the third quarter there. They got a couple of big plays. It wasn't one big play, but I think it was on the next drive.
Sure.
Carson Beck hit 2 or 3 big 20, 25-yard plays, and they just couldn't quite get that huge defensive stop. But, man, it was a phenomenal football game, and this is what you hope you're going to get out of the national championship game every year. You can't design it to be this. You just have to appreciate it when you get it.
Oh, look who it is.
Took him 15 minutes to show his face.
Look who it is on the stream where 35 Tolos are watching the show, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
I thought he would be busy watching tape and to figure out why Miami lost this game. Have you watched any tape since last night, Madcraft?
Can you please give Diesel and I, Madcraft, some recommendations on where to go get some of this tape we need to watch? Because you told us last week on this very show that we hadn't watched tape. And I don't know, Diesel, if we keep receipts on this show, but the one that didn't watch tape, I'm raising my hand. The final score last night was 27-21. My prediction was 27-20. So, Madcraft, if the tape watching will help me by 1 point so I can actually hit it dead on the money, that would be greatly appreciated.
I look at him. What didn't I tell you last night that Madcraft was going to pretend like he didn't talk all that trash last week? Says, y'all got to stop being dishonest about me.
Here we go.
You know, Madcraft, you realize that we have all this on audio, right?
Here we go.
This is all recorded. We can go back and bring back any clip we want of you saying that Miami was going to trounce them, that all they needed to have was 3 men on the line, and Indiana couldn't run the ball against them. Come on,
and the
man.
tape thing, that was on Wednesday. We were live on location at Ingles. You literally said, y'all need to watch the tape. You don't watch tape. And that's when I, went off the rails and went berserk and you got upset. But nonetheless, here's what I would say last night meant the most to me. We talked about it a minute ago, having those kind of stones, Diesel. Curt Cignetti, a good coach to me, can call plays. He can scheme plays. But you know why I always thought Steve Spurrier was one of the best coaches in the game? I always thought Steve Spurrier had a better feel to the game, Diesel, than anybody else, just in terms of feel. Last night, Curt Cignetti, I thought the feel that he had, the instincts that he had, smelling blood in the water right there and saying, you know what, we've got an opportunity to go out here and go for it twice, and not on 4th and 1, not on 4th and 2, 4th and 5. And Curt Cignetti, the instincts, the feel that guy had last night, I think that was the difference maker. You've got to have a head coach that has that. And Curt Cignetti, I mean, Diesel, does that guy get enough credit for what happened last night?
No, he doesn't. He had so much courage and faith in his own team to go for it in critical situations multiple times. He's now a national championship winning head coach. I found some audio, Cole, from October of 2025 where Paul Feinbaum was on Stephen A. Smith's show saying that he was not convinced that Indiana had hired a great coach and Curt Cignetti was one of the best coaches in America. Just absolutely absurd from 2025. If you want to hear it, here it is.
With Cignetti. They did not. And before anybody jumps out of their chair, allow me to explain. I think everyone on this panel agrees that he's done a phenomenal job. But Stephen A., this is how programs get in trouble. They just gave him an extension and a contract raise at the end of last season.
What a bunch of idiots.
We are barely at the midpoint. Let it play out before you completely send the Brinks truck up. Listen, there are
Who does crazy things like that?
Talent. I understand why ESPN spends a fortune, like $100 million, to keep a once-in-a-lifetime talent like Stephen. Curt Cignetti is one of the top coaches in America. He has coached brilliantly this year, but can't you let it play out a little bit? He has one big win, maybe 1.5, including the win a couple weeks ago over Illinois.
Well, he gets to add 16 more to that list, Cole, because here's another crazy stat for you. Indiana 2025 is now the first team since 1896 and the Yale Bulldogs to go 16-0 and win a national championship.
Unbelievable. Wow. And the amount of playoff games that you have to win nowadays, with the expanded playoff, it's only going to get more difficult. I just think, like I said a minute ago, I think you just have to give Curt Cignetti so much credit. And yes, yes, that guy used the portal and NIL. And yes, those you can still be a good person and have high moral ground, Diesel, and still use the portal. Fernando Mendoza is a great quarterback. I think Curt Cignetti's a really good guy. Guess what? He uses the portal. He uses NIL because he knows that this is his job to win football games. He doesn't get up there and tell us about how his job's to mold men and all of this blah, 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 blah. He says, you know what? This is what I've got to do to win. If that's what it takes, I'm going to do it, and I respect the heck out of it.
He also said this, Cole. This is wild.
We're going to enjoy this moment, take a day off tomorrow, get back at it Wednesday. A lot of these guys will be gone. I'll miss them. Hope I can stay connected to them throughout the rest of their lives, and put the 26 team together.
It's going to take a day off and then go get started on 2026.
And tell me if I'm wrong on this, though. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. One thing that I don't like, well, one of the many things I don't like, Diesel, and maybe I'm misunderstood here. The two teams last night that played for the national championship, and you and I have spent a million minutes talking about the college football calendar, right? How screwed up it is. But you're telling me that the two teams that played for the national championship last night are now behind the 8 ball with next year's team because the portal opened, 2.5 weeks ago?
And Indiana lost their backup quarterback in Fernando Mendoza's younger brother. Miami just lost their backup quarterback. And we got this whole situation with Darian Mensah from Duke. Duke is now holding him to his NIL contract. Who is going to play quarterback at Miami next year?
And that's my whole thing. Like, in what world are the two teams that are playing for the highest game, the best, the national championship? In what world are those two teams now behind the 8 ball? Because our calendar is, when the portal should open? Today.
Yeah.
Today. The day. You know how much better that would be in terms of your job, my job? I mean, the 20th, the day after the national championship, that Tuesday, bam, the portal's open. Make it make sense that now Miami and Indiana are behind the 8 ball when it comes to recruiting and using that's just so dumb to me. I one of the many things I hate about this new era of college football.
It puts them in a weird spot. You would think that maybe somebody with a big name is still out there who is not Darian Mensah, who signed a contract. What if you have a feeling that you're going to be recruited by a lot of teams and you want to bet on yourself? Don't sign the contract, Darian.
Yeah.
Now you're in a situation where you're going to have to buy out your own contract, or you're going to be back in Durham playing for a team that you don't want to be playing for.
It's crazy
because you don't want to pay the buyout.
Unbelievable. So much to get to. We're going to dive right back into this. 4 o'clock, Overreaction Monday on a Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Rocco Miller, 422. A loaded show. So there has so much going on in the NFL head coaching circles. A lot to get to. Let's do our head coaching roundup on the other side. A wild weekend when it comes to NFL head coaches, hiring and firing. That's next.
right.
Well, it's a good day unless you are a Miami fan or your last name is McDermott. Diesel Sean McDermott, after 9 seasons, has been fired from the Buffalo Bills, and that is where we go in this very segment, the coaching carousel that is in the NFL right now, hirings and firings. A few head scratchers for me this morning with some hirings. We're going to get to it, but let's start with McDermott. Right move or wrong move? Because I kind of equate this to James Franklin and Penn State in a similar way, right? Because they've got a really good head coach in Sean McDermott. Diesel Penn State had a really good coach in James Franklin. That Sean McDermott's won a lot of football games, hadn't he? But guess what? For whatever reason, McDermott was not able to get the Buffalo Bills over the hump. Do you think it was the right move or wrong move?
Well, as far as owner Terry Pagula is concerned, Josh Allen is the quarterback, but McDermott was not the coach to get him there. I mean, it was at some point you got to choose sides. If you believe that Sean McDermott is a Super Bowl winning caliber head coach, you don't change a thing. But if you think he's not, and you think he's wasting Josh Allen, then you got to side with Josh and go find another coach that can maybe carry you higher up that path. And there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that you're ever going to get back to this position.
Well, to your point, I would even say, Diesel, McDermott's not fired if there's another quarterback, right? The reason I think what you're getting at, the reason Sean McDermott was fired is because Josh Allen is the quarterback. If they have a subpar quarterback, McDermott's not getting the boot because McDermott is a very good football coach. But because Josh Allen's your quarterback, and I'm not saying Allen influenced the decision, I'm just saying because you have this game-changing kind of guy at quarterback, you had to do something.
Wait, how many turnovers did Sean McDermott commit on over this weekend?
3, 4, none. He's the coach.
Josh Allen committed 5 turnovers.
Yeah.
You know, at some point you got to blame the person who's actually touching the ball.
Yeah, no, and that's why I ask it, because Josh Allen, very, very highly respected quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback right now in the National Football League. He had a bad day on Saturday against the Broncos. 33-30, the Broncos win. And Josh Allen is a guy that you watch, Diesel, with your eyes, and you think, you know what? As good as that guy is, what he can do with his legs, at some point that guy has to be playing in the Super Bowl. And I think, Diesel, what the breaking point was for Brandon Beane, former Carolina Panther director of personnel, in the ownership group in Buffalo, was that there was no Mahomes to get through this year. There was no Lamar Jackson to get through. Hey,
the path was virtually cleared for you.
No Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
So they felt like even though their team wasn't as good, they felt like their path was, to your point, as clear as it had ever been. But you got to give credit to Denver for that win. Now, let's get to some of these other hirings and firings. The Tennessee Titans have hired Robert Saleh, New York Jets coach, right? Defensive coordinator. They fired Brian Callahan back in October. I don't know where I am on this, Diesel, because of the ownership group of the Titans, who have made some really head-scratching decisions, right? Getting rid of Derrick Henry, getting rid of Mike Vrabel. Robert Saleh might be a good coach. I just don't feel like this is a great situation that Saleh's going to be in.
Can you judge a coach based on what he does with the Jets? Because the Jets always stink. It's like judging a quarterback or a coach with how they perform as a member of the Cleveland Browns organization. Like, that organization always sucks. There's always something wrong. There's always something falling apart. 20-36 as a head coach. It's not good, right? It's not good.
No.
They had to have seen something. And I think it really matters who his offensive coordinator is. If he can bring in a guy that can light Cam Ward up, hey, maybe we're like changing our tune about Robert Saleh this time next year.
Need a Ben Johnson type coordinator, right?
Well,
Somebody
those are hard to find.
They are. Somebody that can figure out how to get the most and squeeze that orange, get the pulp out of Cam Ward, because Cam Ward's talented. There's no doubt about that. And then on another note, like, you have these coaches that are taking these jobs. It seems like this stuff in the NFL is happening like this. and then bam, the Bills job comes open. Like Harbaugh takes the Giants job, and you're thinking, oh boy,
God, you were this close to getting Josh Allen.
I mean, now to his point, to be fair,
Still getting
let's
smart.
remember, Diesel, there are only 32 of these jobs on planet Earth.
Sure.
So when you're same thing for Robert Saleh, like that guy might not want to go to Tennessee, but guess what? There are only 32 jobs in the NFL. You're offered one, you got to take it. Doesn't matter where it's at.
Yeah, if he had a good season this year as a coordinator, the iron is as hot as it's going to be for you.
No doubt.
I mean, unless he could put together multiple seasons, I still wish we would see guys get multiple seasons in their jobs before we have these breakneck decisions to move to bring a guy in. But that's not how this game works. It's not how this industry works. It's one of those things that makes you say, how much money are you throwing around at this guy? How much are they going to be paying Robert Saleh, a guy that went 20-36 with the Jets? Really?
Yeah.
That guy, instead of hiring somebody who's never done this before?
Now let's get to this one. This one made me scratch my head a little bit. Jeff Hafley has agreed to become the next head coach of the Miami Dolphins to replace Mike McDaniel. Jeff Hafley, Diesel, was the defensive coordinator in Green Bay. So at the beginning of the season, throughout the majority of the season, Jeff Hafley had this guy named Micah Parsons, and their defense was really good in Green Bay. Micah Parsons gets hurt. Their defense, right, it dropped off significantly, as most defenses would without Micah Parsons. But I just don't know about this one. Maybe I'm missing the boat on something. But Jeff Hafley, did anybody out there know that name before today?
22-36 at Boston College.
That was his only head
Boston
coaching job
College.
ever. Diesel, that's the only time he's been a head coach at BC. I mean, make sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't make any sense.
I
Why
mean, what in
that
the
guy?
world? So
what in him said that's the guy we want to lead our team?
that's a great question. That is a great question. So Jeff Hafley now in Miami, Robert Saleh in Tennessee, the Atlanta Falcons over the weekend hired Kevin Stefanski to replace Raheem Morris. Now, we just talked about this with Robert Saleh, Diesel, and the New York Jets. Do we know how good of a coach Kevin Stefanski truly is? Or do we just say, well, it was Cleveland?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, who is going to win in Cleveland? Nick Saban couldn't win in Cleveland. Bill Belichick couldn't win in Cleveland. I don't know where I am on this.
And you can't even say that. No, I don't know that much about the inner workings of the Cleveland Browns or the New York Jets, for that matter. You can't say that they righted the ship. They fixed the organizational problems. Yeah, the success wasn't there. The wins weren't there, but they ran the programs, they ran their franchises the right way. What about what they did in their respective locations says that's the guy?
And you know what's interesting about it? They promote, hire Matt Ryan to basically be in charge of all the football operations, right? The former Atlanta Falcon. And then within just a few days, they've got Kevin Stefanski hired as their next head coach. I don't know. I think that's where I am. He might be a good coach. Is he better than Raheem Morris? I don't know. I just don't know. They've got too much. I've said this before. They've got too much talent on that roster to be that bad. Like, they're a good football team. They've got talent.
But does that have Todd Bowles and Dave Canales and Kellen Moore shaking in their boots right now? Kevin Stefanski coming in?
No, not really. I don't think so. Not unless they just draft extremely well, aggressive in free agency. And that's another thing. Like, we make you and I and all these media members, Diesel, make so much of these head coaching jobs. They are important. I'm not saying that. But you're only as good as the management above you. You're only as good as what your management gives you. If you and I, right, if you and I are trying to broadcast on some tiny little AM station, we're only as good as the signal we broadcast on, the tools that we're given at our disposal. That's why I always have said, you can blame Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy and all these former Dallas Cowboy coaches. But at the end of the day, they're not in charge. They're not pulling the strings. So when it comes to a guy like Kevin Stefanski in Atlanta, no, to answer your question, I don't think he's making those other coaches in the division shaking their boots. But I don't know. Cleveland, is that a fair representation of a coach? Now you have open jobs that include, Diesel, the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, the Arizona Cardinals, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Cleveland Browns, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. There have now been at least 5 head coaching changes in 16 straight NFL seasons. And per ESPN research, Diesel, the 10 head coach moves for 2026 are tied for the most in an offseason all time, tied with the 1978, 1997, 2006, and 2022. You still have some coaching jobs open. The Bills are obviously up there. The Ravens are up there because you have Lamar Jackson. The Pittsburgh Steelers are up there, but I wouldn't put them in the same conversation as I would Buffalo and Baltimore because you have Lamar, you have Josh Allen. Diesel, I'll close with this. Would you put any energy, would you consider anything to Bill Belichick going back to his old division and coaching Josh Allen in the NFL? Leaving North Carolina.
God, has he really put that chapter behind him? Has he really done it? Now,
I just don't
know he can handle the cold weather, so he'll be fine in either one of those 2 locations. I think Bill would take the job in a heartbeat. I think one of the reasons Bill kept saying, the door's closed, I'm not going to go back, I'm not going to do that anymore, is because nobody wanted him.
Yeah.
Now, Cole, we're looking at who's getting these jobs, and not one of them could hold Bill Belichick's jock.
Yeah.
Especially Bill Belichick with an elite quarterback. Think about that. Either one of those situations either gets Lamar or he gets Josh Allen. That guy might go win another Super Bowl in the next 3 years.
So it's interesting. Rex Ryan tossed that out yesterday. Not saying it's going to happen, but I don't think Bill Belichick is meant for the college game. Going back to that division and being able to play against the Patriots twice a year, I think is super intriguing. I still think Bill Belichick knows the NFL game. And I think Bill Belichick can still win in the NFL, especially with Josh Allen at quarterback.
Do you think after a year of having to deal with NIL and all the craziness of college football, you telling me Bill wouldn't want to go back to that relative security and familiarity of the NFL?
No, I think
where guys are on contract and guys are going to stay, and you have a good sense of who you're going to be able to keep around.
Sure.
Unless holy crap, a great trade opportunity comes open, you're going to keep this team intact.
Speaking of quarterback's Josh Allen.
And yes.
Like, who wouldn't want that?
Speaking of the tools that were given, Cole, just a reminder for you Tolos, we are now hot on 101.5 in Anderson. So you got 97.1 in Spartanburg, 97.7 in Greenville, and 101.5 in Anderson. We are all over the upstate now. You can't avoid us. But when we come back, Cole, let's touch on what we were just saying a minute ago. Very briefly, the transfer portal is prematurely claiming more and more college careers every year. Some insanity, some changes just in the last, 15 hours. That's coming up next. Well, I know you took one meteorology class in college, but did you by chance take any flying lessons? Do you have your pilot's license? Because I got a message that I want to print out on one of those banners that flies behind an airplane.
Oh, yeah.
To fly it over every college campus starting around mid-December. We're going to get to that here in just a second, what that message is. But first, wanting to talk NFL coaching rumors, changes, carousel. We bring on Delvin. Welcome into the show, Delvin.
What's up, guys? You talking about why Jeff Hafford got the job? Called the new general manager came from Green Bay.
Oh, you talking about for in the Miami Dolphins?
Yeah, the new general manager came from Green Bay. So
that's all it's about anymore.
Nepotism? Good Old Boys Network? Come on.
Yeah, the Good Old Boys Network.
How do you get in one of those networks? Because they're bad. They're bad when you're on the outside of them, but when you're on the inside, man, those things are great.
Yeah. The thing is, I think Pittsburgh. I know they interviewed Mike McCarthy. I think that's Sean McDermott's job. If he wants.
You think so? McDermott to Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
You know, McCarthy's from there. That's the only thing that's interesting about that. Mike McCarthy's from Pittsburgh. What about the Bills job? Who do you think gets the Bills job?
I don't know. That's tough. You know the crazy name that Adam Schefter threw out? Bill Belichick.
We just talked about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate it. Do you?
Hey, to stick it to the Patriots, I think he would do. I think he would take the job.
I think so too.
I think Belichick is a spiteful ex.
Yeah, might as well, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, Delvin.
Yeah, and I think the two names to watch out for Pittsburgh is Sean McDermott and Brian Flores. I think that Brian Flores. I think that he's proven everybody right about Tua. Cause you remember when he coached Tua, he said a lot of people said Tua said he was the problem. Now Tua saw.
Hey, Delvin, real quick. Who are we going to hire as our defensive coordinator in Dallas, Delvin?
I don't know, man. I would love to have Brian Flores, but he's too
good for us.
He interviewed for head coach. I don't even know where Brian Schottenheimer will go. Hopefully they struggle next year. We get Mike Tony to come to Dallas. So.
All right.
Be interesting. Thanks for the call,
Good
Delvin.
call, Delvin. Cole, this is the message that I would print on that banner and fly over college campuses. Here's a stat for you. It's actually two stats rolled into one. They both lead you down the same direction. In 2021, 1,400 FBS football players entered the transfer portal.
Okay.
67% found a new home, which means, Cole, that 33% did not find a new home. In 2026, with more than 3,000 FBS football players in the transfer portal, only 56% found a new home. Think about it. You got all these guys suing for more eligibility. They're staying in the game longer. They're hanging out. It's wild how the number of roster spots are getting constricted year over year over year. But when you do the math here, Cole, on this 56% of 3,000 versus 67% of 1,400, that means that roughly the same number of players ended their careers in the transfer portal this offseason as the number who entered the transfer portal total in 2021.
That's crazy. That's a crazy stat.
An unbelievable number.
Yeah.
Enter the portal at your own risk. It's like you see those signs in the Everglades in Florida that say, don't go swimming in this water because it's infested with alligators or with amoeba or all kinds of nasty stuff. Don't enter the water unless you know where you're going to go.
Well, I can't remember who brought this up on the show last week, Diesel, but, I think they said it great. When you do this, you're being advised by an agent, right? And I think this just goes so deep into what's wrong with college sports and also what's happening in high school sports as well. But these college kids are being advised by agents, in air quotes, right?
Right.
That really aren't agents. And what do they have? Like, Diesel, I'm not going to try to take you somewhere to, I'm not going to try to lead you to my favorite place unless I can get a little return on. Like, my point is they're being led by these guys who have the wrong intentions. And I just don't think we realize how big of a problem that is in college football because the amount of kids, the amount of student athletes whose careers are ending, to your point, because they got in the portal, it's mind-boggling.
National championship players couldn't enter the transfer portal until today, but they have through Friday. So they got their 5-day extension, Cole. We've already got a couple of big names in there. There may be more than just these two, but these are the ones that I've seen. Fernando Mendoza's younger brother, Alberto Mendoza, has entered the transfer portal. Miami backup quarterback Emory Williams has entered the transfer portal. And that one is definitely big for Miami, Cole, because Miami was seen to be the suitor for Darian Mensah.
Sure.
And now Duke is suing him to keep him in Durham because he signed an NIL contract. But, like, why would you leave a national championship caliber program? Did you not see that Mario Cristobal can coach guys up?
Sure.
Did you not see that Curt Cignetti knows how to coach guys up? Why would you enter the portal? Why would you leave a team that made the national championship game?
Well, again, it goes back to what's their motive. And I, by the way, I didn't say this in the first segment. I think Shannon Dawson deserves a lot of credit for Miami's success this year. Not saying that Cristobal doesn't, but I just think that Shannon Dawson did an incredible job in 2025. I want to ask the question, though, Diesel, what Curt Cignetti proved to college coaches last night. What happened this year prove to college coaches across America? That's next. what does it mean? What does it show us, Diesel, as we continue to learn, we continue to evolve in this new modern era of college football as Indiana defeats Miami 27-21, a perfect 16-0 season that Kirk Cignetti and Indiana put together in an era where if you want to win at the highest level, you have to use the transfer portal. You have to use name, image, and likeness. And Kirk Cignetti and even Mario Cristobal on the other side last night, they use it. They take advantage of it. And a big, big win, a season, and I don't think this is talked about enough, a season where Indiana, Diesel, a program that came from the ashes, goes 16-0 in a short time under their new head coach, just a couple of seasons in, and Kirk Cignetti. I mean, do you realize what this game's doing to our minds in a good way? Like, we enjoyed last night's game, but 10, 15 years ago, if you and I were on sports radio talking about Indiana being in the national championship, people would be bored out of their minds. Yeah. But because you can use the portal, because you can use NIL, Indiana's not Indiana anymore, Diesel.
True. And Indiana, yes, used the portal, brought in a lot of guys via the transfer portal, but they didn't do it by bringing in the 5 stars, the flashy guys. That's how Miami built their team. That's how LSU is building their team. That's how most of the SEC and most of the other Big Ten schools are building their team. And hey, maybe one day that'll be how Kirk Cignetti builds his team. If he turns Miami into a little mini powerhouse, all of a sudden 5 stars will want to go to Bloomington. Otherwise, they'd rather go to Miami, right? They'd rather hang out in South Beach, or they'd rather hang out in Baton Rouge.
I just don't know how much that matters anymore, because I heard somebody else talk about that earlier this morning, I think on First Take or another show. Like, I get that. I would much rather live in Miami than Bloomington, no doubt. But guess what? I don't know if that matters as much as it used to. I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all, but my whole point is Lane Kiffin got players to come to Oxford, Mississippi. All I'm saying is I don't know that the destination is really what kids care about anymore in this world where they're just flashed a check.
Well, yeah, they will. But I think if the money is equal, they would rather go somewhere that's got the bigger stadium, that's got the better location, that's got
prettier girls,
skimpier cheerleading uniforms. I mean, it's hard to catch a glimpse of the cheerleader in Bloomington, Indiana in late December when it's like 12 degrees outside, right? Sure. You'd rather go to Miami where they're wearing next to nothing because you have to.
All
Otherwise,
I'm saying is
heat stroke.
I'd move to Bloomington tomorrow for the price. You know, if the price is right, Bob Barker, I'll get to Bloomington we go.
Right.
I just don't know how much. I guess it depends on the player.
And this is not something Kirk Cignetti and his staff would ever divulge, right? They would never tell you their process. They would never tell. Maybe one of these days when he retires, he'll write a book and he'll explain how he evaluated his talent. But is there anybody who has proven, Cole, that they are a more astute talent evaluator than Kirk Cignetti and his staff? Because he is loaded up with a bunch of 3-star guys. By the way, Fernando Mendoza was a 2-star guy coming out of high school.
Yeah.
I mean, these are guys, he somehow has X-ray vision or something like that and can look into their souls and understand just how hard these guys are going to work and exactly what he's going to be able to get out of them.
I think there's so much to be said about talent evaluation. I talk about it a lot in the NFL, Diesel, and in college. In high school, guess what? You're given as a coach who you're given. You're given the kids that are coming up through the high school.
Somebody that grew up within 10 miles of your school.
Right. But, well, unless you're charter school.
True.
Sorry.
Well, then you're not given who you're given. You got who you bought.
Sorry. Back on college and pro.
That's a whole nother discussion.
Talent evaluation. You hit the nail on the head there. Talent evaluation, Diesel, is so critical. And Nick Saban and the likes of all these other great coaches in the history of the college game have been able to evaluate talent. There's no doubt. But I think there's a new added level now to talent evaluation, because I'm not saying Nick Saban couldn't do it anymore or in this new game. All I'm saying is, Diesel, you used to be able to evaluate talent at the high school level. And that high school talent would come into your program. You would then be able to develop that talent. And I think the risk is a lot different then, or was a lot different then, than the risk is now, where you're bringing guys in from other systems. You're bringing guys in from other cultures. I know this might sound wild. I think there's more risk today in terms of talent evaluation. And that's why I think what they did was so impressive, because you've got all these guys. Mendoza went to Cal.
Yeah.
Like, where do you look at that guy and think, that kid can win a national championship for me, you know?
And think about how fast you have to deprogram and then reprogram a bunch of these transfers. Some of them are hungry and ready to do whatever this new coach tells them to do, right? Others, and because part of this, because Curt Cignetti was only a one-year head coach at Indiana. This is just his second season there, which is nuts. You got guys who are used to being on other teams with different cultures. You bring them in, you got to basically strip them down to nothing and start all over again to get them all back on the same page.
Sure.
I mean, some of them are probably a little upset about where they didn't get recruited in the transfer portal.
I just think there's so many new wrinkles. I think there's so many added elements. All I'm saying is all of those things continue to validate just how impressive it is what Indiana did. And it's not like he went to Clemson, Cignetti, where Clemson had this proven track record in recent years. He went to Indiana. They won 3 games, 3 games, and 3 games the 3 years before Cignetti got there. They were terrible. And then he goes there, jump, boom, microwave, 2 minutes, 2 years, bam, national championship. I think it says a lot about Cignetti. I also think it says a lot about these other coaches who will tell you, Diesel, in these speaking engagements that they do, that, hey, as a head coach, I want to always continue to evolve. I want to always continue to learn and figure out how I can change and get better as a person to continue to do my job better. I just think what Cignetti did in 2 short years puts an exclamation point on every single sentence that ends with portal and NIL. And with that megaphone, he stood on top of the mountain and said, hey, it works. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. You might not like it. I don't know if Cignetti even likes it. But you know what it seems like? It seems like Nick Saban got out of the game because of this, reincarnated to Curt Cignetti. Doesn't it feel like that in a way?
Yeah. And look, you can't take anything away from what they accomplished this season. It is absolutely incredible. 16-0 first time in over 130 years. We've had a 16-0 team go win a national championship, Cole. But we're going to find out. Did he just get incredibly lucky, which I really don't think that's the answer?
Yeah.
Or can he repeat this, at least getting back into the playoff conversation, right? Because that's all I expect of Curt Cignetti in his time in Indiana, is be in the playoff picture year in and year out. Whether you're in the playoff or right there on the edge, it is what it is. Just having those kind of seasons at Indiana. Is it repeatable? You know, maybe he just caught lightning in a bottle. Maybe he's really, really crazy onto something, and he is, like I said, he's just got that X-ray vision, and he knows what's really in these guys.
I'll touch on this real quick. I am going to bring this up as one of my overreactions and Overreaction Monday coming up at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, Diesel. But because you brought it up, I'll touch on it. I do think sometimes we put the cart before the horse, and I think Kirk Herbstreit was guilty of doing it last night.
You don't say.
And saying this. Well, Miami's going to be back. Well, Indiana's going to be back.
Yeah.
I just don't know that in this modern era we know anything about what these teams next year are going to look like.
I mean, they've already put out a way too early top 25 for next year.
Yeah.
And we haven't even finished the transfer portal.
That's
and
my
we
point.
haven't even gone through spring practice. We don't know really what these teams are going to be. Now, this is funny, Cole. This is audio from a coach who should know what he's talking about here. He's got every single advantage. He had one of the biggest names ever come through his program as a quarterback. I'll bet you can guess who I'm talking about here. Has every financial benefit that anybody could possibly want. And even he got it terribly wrong.
The idea, I think we've all got to wrap our brain around. I don't know if we'll ever see an undefeated national champion again.
Whoops.
If we do, that's a really good team because it's just so difficult. And so this idea of somebody's going to go 16-0 in college football, man, put a statue up somewhere of that team because I just don't know if that's going to happen again.
That's Steve Sarkisian, the head football coach at Texas, who less than a year ago said, I don't think we're ever going to see a 16-0 undefeated national champion.
You know what's crazy,
and
though?
It happened less than a year later.
I'll tell you this. I would have agreed with him at the time.
Sure.
You
it
know,
makes a lot of sense.
Like, you've got to win all these games now. And now the Big Ten, Diesel, like back-to-back-to-back years, Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana, the expanded college football playoff. I would have probably agreed with Sark in the time being. But again, guess what that does? That's just another reason to validate what Curt Cignetti did. Build the statue. It might be premature. No, there needs to be a statue. And by the way, the Big Ten, best conference. I mean, obviously we're going to have that conversation today, tomorrow, and the rest of the offseason. But it's very simple in my opinion, on my part, Diesel. The best teams live in the Big Ten. You can translate that into whatever you want. You can turn that into the Big Ten's the best conference. However you want to interpret it, that's up to you. All I'm telling you is the best teams in college football live in the Big Ten. If that means the Big Ten's the best conference, so be it. If that means the best of their teams are better than the best of the SEC or ACC, so be it. But for 3 straight years, the best teams have come out of the Big Ten.
Oh, man, that's going to be a fun conversation when we finally have a chance to get around to it. No SEC fan will ever admit that the Big Ten, top to bottom, is better than them. But, like, what is that discussion actually about? Is it about the team that ultimately hoists the trophy? In which case, the last 3 years, the Big Ten won it back to back to back. Are we talking about top to bottom quality? You know, if we're comparing the 6th best team in the SEC to the 6th best team in the Big Ten, don't know. That conversation can take an entire show.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter what conference is better, top to bottom. Ultimately, what matters is, like you said, who hoists the trophy, right? Texter from the 978 gets in and says the best teams are in the Midwest, which happens to be mostly Big Ten teams. And that same texter even said Cignetti got a lot of guys who were late bloomers. Most of these 4 or 5 star guys are evaluated when they're 16, but men don't physically mature into their 20s and even 30s. I will say, to that texter's point, one of the biggest advantages, Diesel, that Cignetti had in this year's Indiana team was their age. Their average age was close to the Philadelphia Eagles' average age. No kidding. Seriously.
You telling me Carson Beck by himself didn't increase that average for Miami?
Right.
Carson Beck's
close
40.
to it. All I'm saying is there's a lot to be said. We talk about it a lot, Diesel, on the basketball court with, who is it? Calipari, right? Yeah. It always talks about age. And I think he's right. You do want these older teams. He had a roster, Cignetti did, where he felt like he had guys that were physically mature to the point where they could put this team together. You go back to what you talked about with talent evaluation, just getting it right. You know, that is so much easier said than done. Getting it right, and boy, did they get it right. Cignetti hit the nail on the head.
But, you know, that's one of the reasons why we used to see a lot of these FCS upsets over FBS teams or G5 upsets over Power 4 teams. Usually, I mean, not usually, almost always the Power 4 program has more talent. On paper, they have more talent, they have more stars, they have more upside potential. But if you've got a really young Power 4 team against a very mature, older Group of 5 team, then you have the opportunity for these upsets. Now, obviously, that's changed tremendously since the transfer portal. A lot of these teams have a hard time holding on to their talent. You're not going to have a Georgia Southern with a senior quarterback unless he's transferred around 2 or 3 times. He hasn't been in the program for 4 seasons. It's just not going to happen that way anymore until something is done about it.
A texter brought this up with teams in the Midwest. I don't know if you heard this audio yet, Diesel, but Nick Saban with a little. I love Nick Saban that's becoming more edgy. You know, I love that version of Nick Saban. This was from College Game Day, in case you missed it over the weekend, from old Saint Nick. shortly. Maybe.
Nicholas,
Are you there? It's loading.
Miss Pat, let you speak yet?
Miami because it's kind of southern.
In this day and age of the culture we have now in college football, paying players name, image, and likeness, transferring, it's an advantage for the Big Ten. I don't care. You'll never convince me otherwise.
The North?
The North.
The North?
Because people in the South would not go to the North unless you paid them.
Is he 110% onto something there?
Nobody retires and moves up
Yeah.
north, Cole. It doesn't happen.
So he's saying, look, they've got an advantage. Nobody goes up there. I like it. I will also say, when you talk about talent evaluation, you talk about having the right guys in the system. I think one thing that gets left behind in all of this is the word that starts with a C. And I think it's so still important, Diesel, in this new modern era where it felt like before NIL and before the transfer portal, programs were built on culture. I think a lot of people assume that to be successful in this new modern era, you had to leave culture behind and just build a team, have one great team, have one great quarterback. But I think something that needs to be said and talked about is the way that Cignetti, yes, he evaluated the roster really well. Yes, he had good coaches. Yes, he had good players. But in 2 short years, you bring guys into a program, and not only are you able to get them to gel and come together, Diesel, but you're able to establish a strong culture at a place that had no culture at all. I think, like, you talk about the perfect football coach. Nick Saban's the greatest of all time. But I'm telling you, when you talk about the greatest sports stories ever, the greatest accomplishments ever, Cignetti's got to be at the top of the list because of what he's done with the culture of this football team.
It's amazing the turnaround that Curt Cignetti has implemented. Everybody was dogging this team last year, saying, even though they made the college football playoff, you didn't deserve to be there. You didn't belong. You're not one of us. And then a year later, there they are, hoisting the trophy, being rained on with confetti.
And he was at Elon, like 3-4 years. I mean, not long ago.
Amazing.
4 or 5. This guy, the way that, he was in the Nick Saban coaching tree, then he took a job as a head coaching job at a place that was not winning, and then gets the Elon job. And James Madison, it's like he's going from making $600K a year to $12 million a year. So I just think there's so much to be said for what he did, and I hope we never forget, Diesel, just how incredible the job was and what Cignetti did for college football. It should always be at the top of the list in my mind.
Speaking of doing an incredible job, our next guest does that every single day with his coverage of college basketball. Rocco Miller of Bracketeer.org going to join us next. Clemson Tigers keep stacking up the dubs, Cole. A 10-point victory over the Miami Hurricanes at home. Seem to be really catching their stride right now in a virtually unbeatable basketball team for Brad Brownell and company down there in Clemson. Our local boys, the Furman Paladins, took one on the chin, Cole. They just can't seem to beat those Wofford Terriers.
And they had a huge lead. They had a big lead. And I looked at the score Saturday. It was on TV, but I was doing something, looked at the score, and Furman was up big, and I thought, yeah, that's kind of what I expected, right? Didn't expect Wofford to pull it out.
Yeah.
Then the Terriers surge back. They beat them last year in Nashville. It's just unbelievable what these Terriers somehow, some way. 2 years ago in football, Furman was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Wofford was really, really bad. Guess what Wofford did? They beat them. I don't know how it happens.
And it hurts when it's your first time hosting your bitter rivals who have been holding their fancy schmancy Jerry Richardson indoor arena over your head now for probably close to a decade. I don't know when that facility up there in Spartanburg opened. It's amazing. You finally get a nice bougie building of your own, and then you fall flat against your rival. Just tough, man.
And I know Rocco's joining in a second, but then on the other side, Clemson, just dominating win over the Miami Hurricanes. By the way, a bad weekend to be a Miami Hurricane fan, right? But I just thought that was so impressive what they were able to do, Diesel. And that game was really it was a 10 to 12 point game throughout the course of the game, but Clemson was in control pretty much the entire contest.
To talk about Clemson, Furman, South Carolina, and all things college basketball from Bracketeer.org, we bring Rocco Miller onto the stream. Rocco, I think it's the first time we see your face. Welcome to the stream. We appreciate you being here today.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I'm in the saddle today getting some of these new bracket forecasts polished up for us, and it's great to be on with you guys.
Rocco, we were just talking about Clemson's 10-point win over Miami, a really good Miami team. They were 15-2 coming into this game. As you watch this Clemson team round into shape, what makes you feel like this year's team is different from years in the past, where Brad Brownell will have good regular seasons, get into tournament play, and then for some reason lay an egg? Is there anything, 5-6 games into ACC play that you can point out and say, well, that's a little different about this team?
Well, I think it's his best defense. Right now they're the top performing defense, not only in the ACC, but if you filter just by the last 6 or so weeks of all college basketball, Clemson has the number one defense in America.
Wow.
And that gives them a distinct edge. Obviously you're worried offensively about too long of scoring droughts. Clemson's offense right now is still around 65th nationally, and typically in tournament setting, you will run into a team pretty quickly that has NBA talent that can overcome good defenses. But in general, that's a great backbone to depend on. Obviously, as you guys said, that it's now 9 wins in a row for the Tigers. Really impressive wins, I thought, against very talented teams in both Miami and SMU in that 6-0 run. Obviously, Syracuse has some talent as well, getting that road win to kick off ACC play. So I think the big thing is the positional size and the way Brad Brownell has been able to use these bodies. Whether you look at Carter Welling, of course, being a big-time force in the middle out of Utah Valley coming over. Jake Wallen is still there, another 6'10 presence. And RJ Godfrey's a pretty big guy, only 6'7", but 240 pounds, throws his weight around. Nick Davidson, 6'10". So it's just a really impactful front line. It's a combination of all those parts, and them also just dialing in defensively. And Brownell's willingness to throw junk defenses at these elite offenses. That's kind of what we saw in both the Miami game recently and SMU a couple weeks back.
Rocco, just a little context to that number. You said they were 61st in offense. Is that trending in a certain direction, or are they kind of staying level right there?
Yeah, so I'll pull that back up, but I think it's 65th overall for the season, and right now they're still 60th in the last 6 weeks. So it's staying pretty steady. One of the areas where Clemson's really struggling, and it's some of it by design. So I think it's a little unfair to call it a struggle, but they don't really offensive rebound at all. One of the lowest rates in the country. But I think some of that is once a shot goes up, they're so locked in defensively. All 5 guys are pretty much ready to run back and set up shop. on defense. So that number should probably stay low. It's by design with the scheme. But 3-point percentage wise, they're below schedule, in the 200s in the country at 32.5% from deep. Obviously, you would like to see that shooting pick up and improve, and they have a lot to work on there with spacing and freeing up.
I think we're.
That way. Yep. You guys there?
Yeah, we're trying to fix maybe a possible internet connection issue on our end, and we're going to see if we can hit refresh or maybe call you and do it the old-fashioned way over the telephone. Cole,
let's see. I don't know if it was internet issues on our end or his end. It may have been ours. My browser was struggling. Rocco, you got us or still lagging?
I got you.
All right, let's see if it'll work. If it doesn't, I'll call you. Apologize for this. Let me ask you this. By the way, good to have you on, Rocco. Appreciate you hopping on with us. You talk about Clemson's defense, and this applies to Clemson, but also a big picture question from a basketball defensive standpoint. They're really good defensively. Is it collective defense or is it individual defense? How is that measured?
Well, you can measure it both ways for sure. And I think, in terms of, block shots and steals are kind of the big, sexy individual stats. There's nobody that's like top 100 in the country. So I feel, and watching Clemson play as well, it is a group effort and a lot of mucking it up with the variations of matchup zones and structured zone defenses and man-to-man. But, with Brad Brownell, he's willing to switch in certain matchups, and in other matchups, he's more willing to hedge. And so when you're preparing for Clemson, it's very difficult because you really don't know how they're going to play you. So games will start off more like a chess match versus a attack mode from the opposing offenses. And I think as they continue to build on this reputation that's been going on for a couple of months now, it's just going to make the start of games even more difficult for opposing offenses. If you do want to go more individual, right now, of course, Justin Porter has been a menace in terms of perimeter defense. He learned a lot of that from Coach McDevitt at Middle Tennessee, averaging 3.3. The way we measure it here in analytics world is steal percentage based on the amount of possessions there are. And he gets a steal about every 3% of all Clemson defensive possessions. That's a top 200 rate in the country. And then you have Carter Welling, who is doing both block shots at a decent rate and stealing the ball at a decent rate. As well as RJ Godfrey, getting around 3% of blocks in defensive possessions as well. So I think those three guys have stood out individually the most, but I think it is more of a collective group focus.
Rocco, the mid-range game, especially on the men's side of basketball, feels like a 4-letter word. It feels like an antiquated element of the game. But we watch a lot of South Carolina women's basketball around here, and my God, they are some of the best at using that mid-range shot to lethal effect there. Is there a team around college basketball that you're looking at that does a really great job playing in that mid-range to the point where it really does give defenses a hard time rather than defend the dunk and defend the three?
Yeah, I think Houston. Houston's on fire lately. Obviously, 17-1 on the season, but they're a team that takes. They've actually taken a few more threes this year than most of their teams, but they do get into the mid-range quite a bit with Emmanuel Sharp, and of course the young freshman Kingston Flemings has been so dynamite, ranked as the 7th best player in the country per Pomeroy right now, and obviously they get the ball in the interior often, and Joe Tugler, Chris Senack are not immune to pulling up and taking a mid-range shot. There's a decent amount of teams still doing it. Like there's a lot of jump shooting teams more at the mid-major level. And again, I think it is becoming more of an endangered species, as you've mentioned, because a lot of these younger coaches or MBA style coaches that have been hired are more 3-and-D, right? Like just 3 and get to the rim. Don't take any shots in between. Really started years back with Nate Oates at Buffalo, now at Alabama, of course. And that trend has worked for the most part, especially from an efficiency standpoint offensively. So you see that everywhere now, but there are still some jump shooting teams that will take you up on the mid-range, but they're fewer and far between. I think SMU too, like you guys already played. Clemson already played SMU. You look at Jean Pierre. You know, Boopy Miller likes to shoot threes if he gets them, but he's not afraid to go in the mid range either. So I think SMU might be a good team to look at for that question as well.
Boopy likes to hit those game winners from half court too, right? In recent memory.
Crazy.
We're joined by Rocco Miller, Bracketeer.org. Rocco, you called it a few weeks ago, man. I put out an APB on Todd Golden. They were unranked just a couple of weeks ago, now 16 in the country. They moved up from 19 a week ago. They're surging to 13-5. This is the first time in program history that Florida has scored 90-plus points in 4 straight games against SEC opponents. We've got LSU tonight at 7 o'clock. Was I just too knee-jerk on Todd Golden? Do we have to just trust the process with Todd now?
I think so. I mean, the front line has been still pretty overwhelming, since day one of the season. I think you dive into the results as well. You know, I think when we first met, Florida was 9-5 coming off of a loss to Missouri. so like record-wise, it wasn't looking pretty. But if you look at the 5 losses, gentlemen, I think they combined for 17 total points. So all 5 of those losses were down to the wire. You could argue they could have pulled out that Missouri win. That was a final basket by the Tigers. I think a lot of people remember the game at Duke. They lose by 1, but they had multiple chances to pull that game out. And everything else has been close as well, including the 4-point loss to UConn pretty late up in the Jimmy V Classic at Madison Square Garden. So they are there with the nation's best. Right now in my forecasted bracket, 3 of the 4 number 1 seeds are UConn, Duke, and Arizona. That's 3 of their 5 losses. So I think the rest of the country would almost all have those same losses. And the things that I liked and the reason I stuck up for Florida quite a bit was elite rebounding. At the time we met back in early January, they were 5th in the country at defensive rebounding, 2nd in the country offensive rebounding. Now they're up to 3rd in the country defensive rebounding, still 2nd in offensive. And Ruben Chinyelu, I think, had one of his best games of his career at Oklahoma last week, about a week ago today, going for 19 points, making all of his free throws, a total menace on the boards. In the Vanderbilt game, it was more of a collective effort. Xavier Lee stepped up with 20 points. That was one of the main areas that Florida has to continue to improve at, is in the backcourt, just not getting enough consistent play from Boogie Fland and Xavier Lee. But now it's gotten to the point where confidence is higher, more shots are going in. They're making a high clip of free throws, and they're still shooting threes at a very horrible rate. 28% is one of the worst in the country. And they're still too overwhelmingly good for the majority of the teams in the SEC.
Rocco, who is having free throws and the lack of the ability to hit free throws hurt them the most in college basketball right now? You can say my team, App State, if you want to. They're awful at the line, and it's costing them a lot of basketball games. But who's a really good team that for some reason just cannot hit them?
Yeah, and I love App State. That is unfortunate that they're struggling there at the line. They do everything, all the hard things really well. And App State's the worst team in the country at shooting free throws. Syracuse is right next to them, right here in the ACC, at 62.8%. I think out of the teams, in Cincinnati, they've had a really rough year until last week when they had the big upset over Iowa State. They're down there in the low 60s. I think some of the interesting conversations I've had about free throw shooting with coaches at all levels of college basketball is simply the fact that, a lot of times your big guys are getting fouled more than anybody. And that's almost the case across the board. And in that case, if your big guy can't make free throws, it's going to drag down the team percentage. So it's an interesting phenomenon because it's not too often if you have a 90% free throw shooter on your team, he's going to be fouled. The other team, of course, is avoiding fouling him. And if the right guy gets fouled from a defensive perspective, you're going to miss a bunch. And so some of that goes into team free throw shooting as well. But obviously, those 3 teams, Cincinnati, Syracuse, and Appalachian State, we'll give you those 3 for today, are clearly going through the warts.
Rocco, when you look at the newest top 25 with Arizona, UConn, and Michigan as the 1, 2, 3, where's the chasm in your mind? Where's the gap from the best teams in the country to the next level of teams that are really, really good, but maybe you wouldn't quantify them as the elite of the elites?
Yeah, that's a great question, because right now, just going through the exercise and comparing resumes, and also just seeing how the ceilings of these programs are, there's different dividing gaps throughout. I think Arizona, Duke, UConn, Michigan, Houston, and I guess you have to include Purdue. I would say those six are clearly capable of winning 6 games in a row and cutting down the nets. But the next group of teams after that, whether it be undefeated Nebraska, through Vanderbilt, through Gonzaga, Illinois has been amazing lately, but they just announced today Kylan Boswell is going to miss a month. That's their best defender and their leader. So that will be interesting. But I was really high on Illinois until that news. We'll have to see how they perform now the next couple times out. But you have Michigan State. Iowa State was undefeated until a week ago. Now they have 2 losses, but they probably still belong in the conversation. You have BYU with all that elite talent. Virginia has been amazing lately, winning at Louisville and at SMU last week with a great core of players. They invested a lot of money in that roster. And I think Texas Tech, who's beaten Duke already and came off that BYU win this week. And you could go down to Florida and grab Kansas, maybe even Clemson as well. So I think when you look at that, that gives us 19 teams. I just listed them all that are really like, it's funny where the divide happens, because some years it's like the top 4, some years it's the top 8. Well, right now I'm looking at 19 really good resumes, really good teams so far. Obviously that's going to shrink, but there is a clear gap from 19 to 20 right now. So that's where we're at.
3 out of the last 5 teams that the South Carolina Gamecocks have had to face are top 25 teams, all really good teams. In Vanderbilt, Georgia, and Arkansas, they lost all 3 of them, by the way. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel for Meechie Johnson and these South Carolina Gamecocks? Because they got Oklahoma, A&M, and Florida coming up.
Yeah, I mean, they just got to keep working at it. Obviously, they're a little bit under-talented this year compared to the rest of the league, and that's been a daunting realization. But I do think in the last month or so, some of the data I had pulled up for the show today, there are some positive sides. The offense has been performing really well at a top 25 level. It's actually been the defense that's dropped off a little bit in some of these performances. In some of these last few efforts, the Gamecocks are doing a great job taking care of the basketball. They're defending and not fouling, which again is a very effective way of playing defense, to basically do one and done possessions, which moves the needle on the margins. The 2-point percentage has been outstanding in these last few games at over 60%. But I think, and they're playing slow and dictating the pace, which I think is smart, because in most cases they're going to be going up against slightly more talented SEC teams, but not so overwhelmingly outclassed that they can't overcome it athletically. But I do think when you slow down the tempo, you allow the possessions to come down, and they want to keep that in the low 60 possession range. And that can also give you a little bit more of an opportunity and optimize your chances of winning. So I'm encouraged by some of the recent play due to that. And obviously a lot of these parts are new for Coach Parrish. So allowing those guys to get more cohesive and gel, I would definitely keep the door open on a continued growth and improvement. But it is hard to stay positive and keep moving forward when you keep playing these daunting tasks. I think the game against Oklahoma tonight, obviously a must win, and a game at Texas A&M is not impossible. Texas A&M is a team that loves to fly up and down. You guys probably remember Bucky McMillan at Samford and Bucky Ball. They've actually done that here in the SEC, and they're tied for first. But they play such an explosive style to where, South Carolina could really frustrate them with the slower pace and getting some stops. So I wouldn't rule them out for 2 wins this week if things go according to plan. But again, like, the margins are so slim, it could easily go the other way as well.
Rocco, you are the best. As always, man, very much appreciate your time and knowledge and insight on the show, and we look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Sounds great, gentlemen. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you as well, Rocco Miller, Bracketeer, the best there is. If you haven't done so already, make sure you go give him a follow. I'm telling you, man, when it comes to college basketball, there are few as plugged in as Rocco is on Twitter, on X at Rocco Miller 8. That's where you can find them. And Diesel, we've got to get to our Daily Wires, the top headlines next. It is time to get to the top headlines, the top stories in all of sports that are called our Daily Wires. It's the buzz that's happening right here in your neck of the woods and also nationally. You want to start with this, Diesel. Tomorrow, we will be joined by Ashley Chastain Woodard, the head softball coach at South Carolina. She joined us last year on the show, and she might be better than you and I on the radio. She's awesome. She's a great guest.
That's not hard to do.
Well, it's not hard to do. Low bar, right? If you're a Gamecock fan, make sure you set a reminder. Turn it on, leave it on tomorrow. Your softball coach, Ashley Chastain Woodard, at 4:15 tomorrow. Diesel and I will be on location at Ingles Market's Locust Hill Road in Greer, right? The big city of Greer. We're coming to your city. So love to see you out and about tomorrow. Indiana, in case you have been under a rock, defeated Miami last night 27-21 to win their first ever national title in football, Diesel, not basketball. Indiana's now a football school, in case you didn't know.
Huge.
They became the first team since the 1894 Yale Bulldogs to go 16-0. How old were you in 1894?
I was 12.
That's a long time. How about Yale? I mean, I didn't even played 16 games then. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
The Burns Running Rebels are back in action tonight at Riverside. Big high school basketball game in Region 2 5A. Burns 15-3 overall, 6-0 in region play. Riverside, Allen Arnold's group, 16-2 overall, 5-1 in region play. A big region game. You can hear it right here on the Fan Upstate. Diesel, this one's interesting. Alberto Mendoza, the younger brother of Fernando Mendoza, has announced he is entering the transfer portal.
Well, a little update on that, Cole. I wrote that one down a couple of hours ago. Now it seems as if he is headed to Georgia Tech. Yeah, so he's going to be
Ramblin' Wreck?
Yeah.
Okay. How about that? The Miami Dolphins hired Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley as their next head coach. Everybody had that on their bingo card, right? Tennessee Titans finalizing a deal to hire San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh, former Jets head coach Diesel, as the new head coach in Nashville.
It's a bold choice, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him.
A couple of interesting hirings there. The Buffalo Bills, in case you missed it, fired head football coach Sean McDermott on Monday after another season that failed to end in a Super Bowl appearance, but the team did promote Brandon Beane to president of football operations. Brandon spent like 8 years right here in the Carolinas as the director of player personnel for the Carolina Panthers a few years ago.
You think John Harbaugh is kicking himself for taking that Giants job too
That's
early?
what I'm saying, man. Like,
God, he could have had the Buffalo job.
I know you could have, but again, like I said, how do you know? You know, you have to take them. It's so difficult. So, well, it'll be interesting to see who gets that job. In Seattle, the Seahawks will be without their leading touchdown scorer for the remainder of the playoffs. Running back Zach Charbonnet suffered a significant knee injury. Coach Mike McDonald said on Monday, he has a tore ACL, so not good news there for the Seattle Seahawks. Detroit Lions finalizing a deal to hire former Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator Drew Petzing as their new offensive coordinator. Sources told ESPN's Adam Schefter. He's 38 and will replace John Morton. Clemson Diesel now 16-3, 6-0 in the ACC after a big win, 69-59 over the Miami Hurricanes on Saturday. Tigers back in action tonight at 7 o'clock hosting NC State.
Where's Madcraft to talk about that one?
He
disappeared.
Bad weekend for Miami, right? Furman Paladins, we talked about this a couple of minutes ago. Furman now 13-6 on the season, 4-2 in conference play after a 74-70 loss to Wofford on Saturday. Furman is at the Citadel tomorrow. You hear that game right here on the Fan Upstate, pregame at 6:30. Kansas Jayhawks basketball coach Bill Self has been admitted to the hospital and will miss the team's next road game against the Colorado Buffaloes. He's 63. He was taken to LMH Health after feeling unwell and receiving IV fluids. This is not the first time, Diesel, he has faced health issues as he missed the tournament a couple of years ago. So scary stuff there. And then last one for you, NFC, AFC championships are set. New England, Denver on Sunday, while the Seattle Seahawks will host Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams.
Big stuff there, Cole. Those are your daily wires. When we come back, it is your chance, Tolos, to overreact on a Tuesday. This is exciting. We never do this on Tuesdays. Your chance to call in 844-FAN-PHONE. Say what you got to say about something you saw this weekend. That's next. on Madcraft, who, well, they said we were being disrespectful earlier, Cole, and he just disappeared off the stream. I don't know what happened
What's your name?
to the young fella, but hey, you got something to say.
Losing's
Here's
not
your
fun,
chance.
Diesel. That's
No,
what it is.
it's
Losing's not fun.
Some people can dish it out. They just can't take it. Call in now. This is your Tolo takeover on a Tuesday. You normally do it on a Monday. It's not a Tolo takeover. It's a Monday overreaction on a Tuesday. Call in now, 844-326-3663. What have you got to say? Let's lead it off with Dewey, who I'm sure is mad about 5 different things right now.
This
Cole.
might take an hour. Dewey.
Oh, first of all, Madcraft, you suck. Second of all, Miami, you suck. Carson Beck sucks too. His college career is finally over. He's probably in court right now trying to beg for his college career back, but it's not going to work, Carson Beck. Go back to high school, you little high school punk. But Indiana did good last night. They got the win, and Kirk Cignetti can say, Google me now, and now he's going to the Raiders. And
What?
he's going to jump the Raiders. I watch. They need a coach, and they're watching him. And then that Fernando Mendoza, he thinks he's all
what's your name?
hot, thinking he acts like he goes to church and letting off F-bombs. So
That's true, he
get
did.
him. And now he's going to be first-round pick to the Raiders, and he's going to be a forgotten soul. But good riddance to college football. To be honest, college football sucked this year. Gamecocks sucked. Clemson sucked. And Dabo, I hope you're watching. Google Kirk Cignetti, because you need to Google someone who uses the portal and uses NIL and doesn't teach church. And Shane Beamer, you need to do the same thing. Madcraft, get back here and face the music. Oh.
Hey, Dewey, real quick. Dewey, I have a question for you. That was a great call, by the way. Can I ask you a question, Dewey?
Oh, yes.
Are you ready for the snow this weekend?
I think it's lies.
No. Chris Justice said it was going to snow, Dewey.
He said 22 inches. His Chris Justice model talking about 22 inches of snow.
You don't believe it?
It's never 22 inches of snow here. We barely ever get 2.
Dewey,
We might get a dropper.
if I could get Chris Justice to come on this show and talk to you, would you be respectful to him or would you tell him that he sucks?
I'll respectfully say you suck, sir.
I love that. Yes,
I'll be-
Dewey.
I'll be
Don't
nice.
Being
Yes.
disrespectful, respectfully.
Yes.
I like that.
I did too.
And his nemesis, Kendra Kent, she's saying ice. There's a difference between ice cubes and snow. She's saying we're going to have ice cubes dropping from the sky. So I don't know. They're all Chicken Littles. The sky's falling. I don't know. Oh.
Thanks, Dewey. Dear
Goodness
God.
gracious.
What a call.
Ice cubes falling from the skies. Kurt Spaghetti. Let's go to Dan B on the line. Hello, Dan.
What's your name?
Hey guys, yeah, man, I don't even know where to start, whether it's the weather or Dewey or. Here's the crazy thing. I watched the Denver game, pins and needles, great game. I'm watching the second game and I see Cole Twitter that you feel gutted about Bo, and I'm like, what?
Oh, sorry.
And then so I look it up and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh,
right now?
Dan.
No,
You
got me
almost
there.
pulled a Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah. No, and it was I either missed it on the NBC broadcast or they didn't bring it up. I don't know. I don't know how we weren't hearing about it immediately on the broadcast, and then I had to go read about it on Twitter.
Isn't that the worst, man?
And I went back and watched the play too. Like it wasn't like it was a bad, tackle or anything. It just looked, nothing crazy. And he got up and he looked like he trotted away.
Yeah, he did.
And
Walked off the field.
Well, it doesn't have to be bone sticking out of the leg to still be a broken bone, right? I mean, it could have been something that he fractured a play or two before that wasn't excruciating at the time with your adrenaline up. And then all of a sudden, a play that doesn't look like it was something was something.
Yeah. I hate it, Dan. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, man. I was pulling for Denver. I was so excited for Denver to be able to make it to the AFC Championship. And then to hear that news, I mean, I was just gutted for the kid.
And I mean, I like how we've said this term before. You know, Denver, I think, was punching, you know, higher than their weight class anyway all year long, and that's fine. It was a super awesome surprise to see them just be the best team in the AFC, like unexpectedly. But hey, give Peyton Sean Payton a lot of credit there.
Should Sean Payton forfeit the win so that the Bills, who have a better chance to advance, continue on?
Man, that's
because
rough.
clearly they don't stand a chance. And if a team doesn't stand a chance to win at all, they shouldn't be in the playoff at all.
That's correct. You're right. I can't argue against it.
Travis Hunter effect.
The other thing I want to gripe about is what's up with this Carson Beck not having ever actually enrolled in a graduate program, never took any classes, and he's still playing football for a whole nother year. Another one of the CFB's major problems that need fixing.
Yeah.
Like, he laughed about it in that. He's like, oh, no, I didn't take any classes.
Yeah.
Like, and he's sitting there smiling about it like, I got one over on all y'all.
Yeah. Are you surprised by it?
No.
Yeah.
Nothing
Sucks.
surprises me with everything that's negative and the detriment of college football today.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan.
Good call, Dan. Good to hear
right.
from you. Let's move on to Kevin on the line. Kevin, it's your chance to overreact on Monday.
What's up, Kevin?
Well, I have a challenge for Dewey next time he calls in. That guy is so angry and upset about something. I want him to give you and Diesel a compliment.
Ooh. Oh. Could Dewey give us a compliment? That's a good question. I don't know if he could.
And then the second thing is I normally keep my receipts. And, Cole, I've met you in person. You're a great guy. But me and you had a conversation last week about if the Big Ten wins the third year in a row, the SEC, I will say, is deeper. But what are you supposed to say?
I am supposed to say, you tell me, the best conference, the Big Ten now, better than the SEC. Is that right?
That's what you're supposed to say, as you said you would eat your crow.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I said it a minute ago, I mean, make no bones about it. The best teams, Kevin, have been out of the Big Ten. There's no doubt about that. And you know, is the SEC deeper top to bottom? Maybe so, but that doesn't matter. You know, those teams don't win a championship, you know?
Yeah. But, hey, it was good talking to you guys.
Appreciate you, Kevin. You too, man.
Kevin. You know, there's that old adage, iron sharpens iron. And for the most part, that is true. If you play a nothing schedule, you're going to get exposed at some point. But is there also a point where iron blunts iron, where, you know, you beat yourself up over the course of a season playing a bunch of really, really, really good teams. You hurt your depth by the end of the season, and you're not quite yourself when it really matters.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, Curt Cignetti wouldn't have traded that season in to go play in the SEC. Like, I think even he would tell you, hey, I like the Big Ten. I mean, Dabo wouldn't want to go coach in the SEC, you know, game after game. So I think there's truth to that. I really do.
Let's go to the phone lines again and bring in Mustin from Kapasi Glass. Hey, Mustin.
What's up, guys?
What's your name?
Good to hear from you.
Hey, thank you. I'm on the road, of course, stuck on 85 traffic. Imagine that.
Imagine that. What's up, Mustin? Good to hear from you.
So, hey, and it's not even snowing yet. Can you imagine what's going to happen Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah.
You know, thank God I got a whole case of, you know, what is it about milk and bread that people do snow time? I mean, would you not rather have a case of beer or liquor? You know, that stuff doesn't feel go bad.
Hey, there's a slice of bread in every beer, as they say, Mustin.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I don't understand the milk and bread thing here in the South. It's just, you know,
If the power goes out, how are you going to keep the milk fresh?
Yeah, exactly. But you can keep on
Throw it
drinking.
in the yard, I guess, right?
Yeah, you know, and if you keep drinking, you won't be as cold. You know, if the power goes off.
You've convinced me, Mustin. I'm coming to your house if the power goes out.
Come on, we'll work on it. But hey, listen, two things. One about Beck. I mean, does he remind you? And I hope I'm wrong because I never want kids to fail. But in 5 years, will he be playing football or pumping gas?
No, he will not be playing football in 5 years. Not in my opinion. Diesel may disagree, but Mustin, for me, I don't think he's got a big NFL career ahead of him.
Yeah, I don't either. I just, you know, but look, I hope in the best. I mean, I don't want kids to fail and all that, but I just, you know, looking at him on the sidelines and, you know, this haircut and all this stuff, I don't know. You know, we'll see what happens. hey, the Indiana coach, when you're looking at him on the sidelines, who does he remind you of?
When you look at him on the sideline,
Not as far as looks, but the impression stuff.
Oh, Nick Saban.
Yeah, that could be. But
I say Spurrier.
Yeah, no, to me, no, Spurrier actually, I don't know, maybe because he was winning, but, to me, it's Frank Martin.
Okay.
He never smiles, never nothing. And, as South Carolina fans, we put up with Frank Martin because he gave us that one good year.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 years, I couldn't stand watching that idiot on the sidelines because, the team sucked. And then he would give this crappy face to a player coming off when the coaching was so terrible. And now, I'm not saying this Indiana coach is going to become terrible. It don't look like he's going to get bad anytime soon. But, he'd be one of those guys, like if he starts losing, I'd be like, why don't you smile once in a while? You're losing.
Yeah. Mustin, I'll say this real quick on the Spurrier thing. The reason I equate him to Spurrier in a way is because I always said I thought Steve Spurrier had the best feel, the best instincts during a game to know what to do at the right time. And last night, going for it twice in that last drive there where they went for it on 4th and 5 2 times, and then Mendoza runs for the touchdown. I just think those are ballsy play calls, right? And being able to sense blood in the water, I just think that goes we don't put enough emphasis on how big those play calls were last night.
No, and I agree. And real quick, I know you guys got to go. I was good friends with Marcus Lattimore's mom and dad. And I remember one time Marcus's stepdad told us at a meeting he said Marcus used to say, if we did exactly what Coach Spurrier told us to do on a given play, he said a lot of times he just made up things. He said nobody would ever stop our offense. He said that's how good that coach was.
No doubt. Hey, and then Mustin, real quick before you run, Gamecock Club coming back to Spartanburg. It's every 2 years this May, right?
Yeah, May. The problem, I know he's made a lot of changes with coaches and, somehow he kept the recruiting class and done NIL. But, look, I'm not saying I don't want him fired. I don't want him to go. I want him to succeed. But right now I'm at that point with him and South Carolina football. I don't want to hear anything until August. When you tell me these are my starting guys and this is how many games we're going to win, if you don't, I'm sorry.
Hey, it's okay to take a little space, and sometimes it's healthy to have a break.
Mental break. Mustin, you're the best, man.
Oh, man. Top all-time coaches stank face. Kurt Signetti is on there.
He's up there, man.
Saban is on there. Muschamp is on that list. I'm thinking of that one play where he gets in that glare face.
Yeah,
Who else goes on that
I
list?
don't think I've ever seen anybody with the facial expressions like Signetti.
It's so good.
I mean, it's
right?
Unbelievable.
He knows when the camera's looking at him.
He does.
Might have time for one more after Dale. If you got something to say, something to overreact to, 844-326-3663. Texter says, Frank Martin lost me when he went with the bald look. He didn't look like the same person. Dale, what have you got to say on this Overreaction Tuesday?
We're going to have some Tolo on Tolo hate crime.
Uh-oh. Let's go.
Okay? Mad Craft. Did you watch the film? Did you see the film? I mean, did you watch the film? Did you study the film? Because the film was out there, and the film said that you all lost. Man up. Be a man about it. Don't be soft as Charmin. Call in, say, you know what, guys? I was wrong. I was thinking like a homer, and I didn't watch all the film.
Well, he told us we didn't know what we were talking about because we didn't watch film.
Well, apparently he didn't watch film either.
Well, hey, instead of Mad Cat, maybe it's more like Scaredy Cat.
And then the best part, Dell, is the best part. I told him in the first segment of the show that I literally hit the score almost exactly. It was 27-21. I said 27-20, and he came back and said, oh, that's not impressive. That's not impressive. I mean, there's nothing to it. And nothing impressive there. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're right. I think he should call the show and publicly admit that he was wrong. Maybe he was the one that should have watched the film on Indiana.
And here's the thing. It is impressive because you know what? 16-0 is impressive.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. I don't care who you play. 16 wins and 0 losses is, what is that? That's a 100 win percentage, right? Last time I checked, I mean, and I'm pretty good with numbers. So
Paul Feinbaum's going to find a way, Dale, to say it's not all that impressive.
Man, Dumbo can go stay in the SEC with them big ears.
Dumbo.
He's not supposed to even be in this country anymore. He said he was going to move out if an SEC team didn't win the national
He did
championship.
say that.
What are the chances he bunks with Rosie O'Donnell?
Good call, Dale.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Dale.
you.
Oh, man, this is good. By the way, Tolos, really good stuff on this Overreaction Monday on a Tuesday. Good phone calls. Even though we have a segment planned in the very next segment, I will tell you this. If you keep calling and you keep bringing the heat like you have, we'll keep extending it into the next segment. But you've got to keep calling if you want to overreact.
All right, one more on the line. Saving the best for last. Tom in Somerville. What's on your mind today?
You know, I've been trying to, keep things civil with all the different fan bases that call in. And, I like Mad Cat. Me and him, exchange ideas and conversate on Twitter a lot. But I'm getting kind of worried about our boy, man. Like, for the past month, we have heard him tell us how good Miami is. And all jokes aside, what they did was awesome. He should be proud of that. But, a lot of Clemson fans that call into this show, a lot of Gamecock fans that call into this show, after every loss, we call in, we own it, we vent about it, and we move on. So, Mad Cat, maybe the best thing to do, instead of sitting at home sulking like Dewey does about Chris Justice, is call in, voice your opinion, tell us how you feel, and I promise you, Mad Cat, you'll feel better. Because what you don't want to do is carry this negative feeling you got stuck up in your gut over into Braves baseball season.
Oh.
Because, Mad Cat, you're the one that's got to keep us positive during the Braves baseball season. And if you are still depressed, come that day, we are all screwed for the next 6 months.
That's true.
Because you're the only person that's going to keep us level-headed and positive.
And Tom, did you see Madcraft might not have been positive enough? We've already lost Kim for the first, 4 to 5 months, dude?
Well, we're only like, hold on, I got a calculator on my phone. We're only, let's see, I got the timeline kicking down. We're only 227 days away till football season.
Oh, good.
So somebody's got to keep us positive for the next 220 days.
Well, you're not going to watch the USFL spring football, Tom?
Hey, I'll watch it. I mean, because if Matt Cat's not going to be positive, that means we gotta bank on Rick or Dewey to bring the positive energy.
Well, it ain't going to be Dewey. Dewey says Tom doesn't even know who Chris Justice is.
Well, I see him on Facebook just like Dewey does, okay?
That's great. By the way, Tom, thanks for the call as always.
Good stuff, Tom.
Great stuff.
Hey, that was a great football game, all jokes aside. It was a great football game. Congrats to Indiana.
It
Appreciate
sure was.
you, Tom.
Hey,
I'm surprised more people don't watch USFL. I mean, that's where Carson Beck's going to end up, right?
Maybe. There's a good chance. I want to know something. We need to get Dewey on Twitter, on X, because, I mean, all the conversation that goes on there between us and Tom and Madcraft and everybody else. Dewey, let us know, why aren't you on? Do you know what Twitter is, Dewey? I think that's the question I'd like to know.
Texter says Tom in Somerville sounds like sober Dewey.
Oh, my gosh.
Is he, though?
What a thought.
I messaged you, Cole, and I got a conspiracy theory. I messaged you while Kevin was on the phone, and I asked you, do you think Kevin kind of sounds like Dewey out of character?
That is,
I'm still trying to figure this out. Is Dewey a real person? The Dewey that we know.
Of course he's
real. Is that a real person, or is it a character? Because I think Kevin might be Dewey.
No shot. I think he's real.
I think it's Kevin.
I think he's real. There's no way somebody could be that, to pretend to be that dumb. Like, there's just no way. I mean, you couldn't do it. Some things you can't drum up.
You have to be real smart to pretend to be that dumb.
Let's go to T Experience up next. What's up, T Experience?
In 2025, I told you, and I came on the line and challenged that one-on-one running from every conversation jabroni. Mad Dash is his only name.
Dash.
Because he runs from every conversation. He doesn't finish. You get him in a corner, he weasels his way out. But not this time, brother. Not this time. We got you, Mad Dash. I'm out, guys.
That's a great call, man. Mad Dash.
Oh, God.
That is so good, man. That is so good. I love it, the experience.
Oh,
The calls today have been superb. I mean, they've been great.
Didn't I text you last night? And I told you that Magcraft was going to come on the show today. He was going to text in. He was going to message in on the stream and say that he didn't say any of that stuff for the last month
We're
about
putting
how,
words in his
how
mouth.
elite Miami was and how nobody can run on Miami and nobody can block Miami and that Miami was going to win the game. It was honestly impressive how consistently wrong Magcraft has been over the past month. And I told you that he was going to try to backtrack that. And what does he do? He comes on and says that we misrepresented everything that he said and that we were being too cruel to him.
He literally said last week that Indiana wouldn't run on Miami. I literally remember him saying that. And Indiana did run on Miami for 131 yards last night, by the way. So,
hey, the ones that mattered were Fernando Mendoza on that touchdown.
That
thing was beautiful.
The experience. That was a great phone call. Mad Dash.
What's that song that goes? Is it Chariots of Fire? Do 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 do.
I don't know. Maybe.
Do 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 do. I want to see that Fernando Mendoza run with that laid on the top.
Yeah, I'm with you.
One more. Let's go to
Let's
Rick.
keep it going. Rick and Greer.
Rick.
Okay. I am mad as hell.
Uh-oh.
And Dewey, you got me upset, okay? Nobody knows this, but my last name is Justice. Chris Justice is my nephew.
No, he's not.
Will you please give it up? He is a good boy, and he knows this weather forecasting, Dewey. So Stewie, I've got a new name for him. It's Stewie. Stewie, leave my nephew alone. I put him through school, okay?
Oh,
Thank you very much.
Rick,
Oh, God,
that's
Rick.
not true. I
Great
don't
phone
believe
call.
it. I just don't believe anything that comes out of Rick's mouth. I really
Hey,
don't.
Rick, how much are you donating to Bryce Young's 5th-year
Oh,
option?
he hung
by the
up.
way? Oh, he
hung up. He dropped the mic.
Dewey, now named Stewie.
That's good stuff, man.
Oh,
That's good.
God.
Dewey says, I'm a real person, Cole. I'm not dumb. I said dumb in a good way, Dewey. In a good way. In a good way. Really good stuff, Tolos. Good overreaction Monday on a Tuesday. We literally from 5 o'clock to 5:23 had them back to back to back to back to back to back to back. Good stuff there. It might continue. It might not. If the phone rings, it continues. If it doesn't, we get to Clemson basketball.
Well, I want to put this out there, Cole.
Yeah.
Madcraft, you need to call in. You need to talk to us about this.
He does need
Because
to.
if you don't, it's going to be so much worse for you.
Yeah.
If you hide from this, if you just lay low and lurk on the stream and don't comment to anybody, and then you just show up one day when one of your teams does something great, pick and choose whoever it's going to be in whatever sport, it's going to be so much worse for you, man.
It
If
is.
you just
Yeah.
came on and said, you know what, guys, I was wrong. All credit to Miami. They did the things that I didn't believe they could do. It would
Credit
be
to Indiana, you
fine.
mean?
We would respect you for that.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I also have an overreaction. We'll get to that. You've got one as well, Diesel. And if we have time, we'll also get into Clemson basketball and how Clemson canceled the hurricane warning against Miami on Saturday. Sorry, but I had to.
10 upstate.
Well, look at them now, Diesel. Clemson basketball surging into the top 25 after a big win on Saturday over Miami. They are back in action tonight at home once again, and Clemson playing its best basketball of the entire season. They were 22 in the country last week. They are now number 18 in the country. They've won 9 straight games, and they're 6-0 in conference play, Diesel. It's second best start since joining the ACC. We talked to Rocco Miller about this, and I just think there's a lot to be said about defensive effort that teams bring across the board in college basketball. I watched that game Saturday against Miami. Clemson's defense right now, I don't think they're getting enough credit. They are just suffocating defensively, and that Miami team really never had a shot. Brown Al Diesel has this team rolling at a really good spot right now.
What did Rocco tell us? What stat did he give us as far as where they rank in the best defenses in college basketball?
The best.
Number 1.
Yeah.
The number 1 defense in college basketball. They jumped 4 spots, by the way, like you said. That is not, wildly enough, that is not the biggest jump this week. Kansas jumped 7 spots up to the number 19 spot. But you're right, man. It's not the sexiest form of basketball. But, hey, that's the kind of game you have to play when you can't necessarily get, like Rocco said, the NBA talent. Now, who knows what's going to happen if they get into tournament play and they got to face an Arizona or a UConn or a Purdue or somebody like that has NBA talent. Yes, you might be able to slow those guys down, but elite scorers are elite scorers. Clemson doesn't necessarily have a bunch of those. They got some pretty good ones, and we'll see how far it can take them.
Yeah, and a couple of years ago, Clemson had NBA talent when they had PJ Hall, and they went on that run, right? And it was a really big run for Clemson. They played defense then too, but the way that they're collectively playing defense right now, it's impressive. I mean, are again 16-3, a 6-0, perfect start in league play. And tonight they are hosting NC State at Little John, a team that they're just flat better than, Diesel. Clemson should beat NC State. But what's interesting about this Clemson team and the way this schedule kind of rounds up in February, and we've talked about this before, not saying they hadn't played good competition because they have. Miami was a really good team. Alabama and SMU, those back-to-back losses, 2 good teams. Cincinnati, a good team they played right here in Greenville, right? However, I think you talked about those top teams in the country. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Clemson can do down this stretch. After they play NC State, they get Georgia Tech and Pitt back-to-back Saturdays. They're off next week in terms of the weekday games. But when I look at the schedule, Diesel, I kind of circle or put a line right there at that Wednesday, February 4th game. The reason for that is they make a trip out west. They go to Stanford on the February the 4th. And then that Saturday, the 7th, they play at Cal. And then they host Virginia Tech. Then they're at Duke. Then they're at Wake Forest. They host back-to-back Florida State, Louisville. And then they're at North Carolina, and they close the season with Georgia Tech all the way down to March the 7th. So that last month, not to say this Clemson team's not for real, not to say they're not good or capable of making a deep run in the tournament, I just think that we're going to learn a lot more about this team, Diesel, in that last month, especially on this bench production. Can the bench production continue? Because you and I both know defense travels, right? Not worried about that. But can this bench play continue? Because it's been really, really good thus far.
You look at some of the teams that they play, and you look at what they're able to do offensively consistently, and you're not going to find really anybody until Duke, which that matchup is on February 14th on Valentine's Day.
Almost a month.
Who is consistently scoring up there in that 80, 85 plus points a night. So, Cal has done it a couple times, but they did it against North Carolina when they flew all the way to play their game at Cal. None of these teams are doing it night in and night out. And those are the types of teams that Clemson would probably be able to hold 8-10 points below their season average and still maybe not be able to score with them. I mean, I think this defense is going to clamp down, Cole, over these next 6 games. Am I going to say they win 6 more in a row and are on a 15-game win streak going into Cameron? That'd be really tough. But I wouldn't be shocked if they did it.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't.
They're really good right now. Why are they playing so well? I think when you look at balanced scoring or balanced scoring, Diesel, we talk about the depth off the bench, but like this offense is just balanced in a way where they're not having to rely on the one guy. You talked about a couple of teams in the top 10, top 5 that have NBA talent. A lot of times when you have that NBA talent, you become very reliant on that talent. And I think one of the good problems that Clemson has right now is they're not reliant on one guy. Like RJ Godfrey, Justin Porter, Carter Welling, Diesel, they all fill their own role. And then you throw in those freshmen, the bench players like Nick Davidson, who stepped up in key games. I think that balanced attack offensively can make the offense more resilient when certain players struggle. Now, I'm with you. When they go against some of these top teams, it's going to be challenging, but I do think there's something to be said about how balanced they are offensively. And then also why I think they're playing so well. From what I watched on Saturday, Diesel, their ball pressure right now is just a major factor. The forcing the turnovers, limiting the elite scores, right? Example, holding Miami starters below their averages like they did on Saturday. It was the first time Miami's been held to under 60 points all season, Diesel. Clemson's dominating the boards right now defensively. They're getting stops in transition. And when you talk about all the different formulas to succeed in the ACC, they're doing it. So Clemson's games, I think, are going to continue to hinge on that defensive consistencies, which shows up in low opponent scoring like it did on Saturday. That is something that does travel, though. That is something that I think as the teams continue to get tougher and tougher, something that you might see as the consistent, the steady Eddie, if you will, for this Clemson basketball team.
Well, Rocco brought it up earlier, the 3-and-D approach. So you shoot up that 3, and then you run back and you play defense. You don't let these teams that want to run get out and run, and it frustrates them. It slows them down. That is something Brad Brownell has been really good at coaching into this team. But I've also seen, Cole, how in certain games, he just seems to know the exact right time to start crashing those offensive boards, right? To not just give up the one shot, because you know very well. I don't have to tell you how important second chance points can be. And if you're not crashing those boards, then you're not getting those second and third opportunities on possessions. And you really got to make sure your shooters are on those particular nights. I mean, yes, at times Brad knows to get his team back and to make sure the other team can't run, but also at times he's doing a really good job having the bigs, especially Godfrey, stay down there and collect those rebounds.
Look at this ACC conference standings right now. Duke 6-0, Clemson 6-0, Virginia and Miami are the only one-loss teams in the conference right now. Virginia, who Rocco pointed out earlier, they are playing really, really well as of late. They're 5-1 in conference. Miami's 4-1 in conference. Again, their only loss was to Clemson Saturday. Then you've got like a huge logjam, Diesel, between NC State, Syracuse, Stanford, Vatech, Louisville, SMU, North Carolina. By the way, North Carolina 2-3 in conference play. So not the best start in conference play for Hubert, but we'll see what happens there. Still a lot of basketball to play. But right now, I want to go back to, I'll close with this. You brought up Brad Brownell. To see Clemson at the top of the conference on the 20th day of January, Diesel, right there with Duke, both teams undefeated. Duke's 17-1 overall, Clemson 16-3. Duke's on a 6-game winning streak. Clemson's on a 9-game winning streak, and Virginia's on a 5-game winning streak. The top of this conference is tough right now, and to see them where they are, I think Brad Brownell does deserve a ton of credit, because this team, after those 2 losses to BYU and Bama, something clicked, and they've been excellent since.
Isn't it interesting how the cyclical nature of college basketball, and the elite of the elite head coaches in the ACC retiring and moving on, also ushered in the rise of the SEC, where everybody got better across the board. except you, South Carolina. And after a couple of years of that, things seem to be normalizing back around, Cole. Virginia back to being really good, which, it was nuts when I'm blanking on his name, the head coach that just retired right before the season started. We didn't expect them to bounce back with the quickness that they did. We didn't expect Miami to bounce back with the speed that they did. And hey, culture matters. I think culture still matters in a big way, not on the team by team basis, but on the fan expectations to get back. It's huge, Cole. We didn't get a chance to get to our Monday/Tuesday overreactions. We're going to do it to close out this hour in the very next segment.
This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
You know, Cole, this overreacting thing seems pretty fun. We had 25 plus minutes of calls to start this hour. Tom, Dewey, Kevin, Dan B.
A lot, man.
Dale, so many great phone calls. Rick and Greer, T Experience. Dewey's now Stewie. Madcraft is now Mad Dash.
Dude, that
this
was
is
great. That was so good.
Oh man, you know, we should be able to get in on this fun. You know, we sit here, we bring the facts, we bring the information, whether Madcraft likes it or not. We do that on a daily basis. But it's our turn to overreact. Cole, what have you got?
I just think we're overreacting on this whole deal. I brought this up earlier in the show, and Herb Street touched on this last night. I think we're so quick on the trigger to say, oh, man, Cristobal's done a great job. Miami's going to be back. Oh, Cignetti's done a great job. Indiana's going to be right back. And I love Kirk Herbstreit. I really do. I just heard this last night. SVP was talking about it, and I just think we're too quick on the trigger with this. 10 years ago, they were going to be right back there. Cignetti was going to be right back. My whole point is, when we're talking about teams and programs being back next year, one thing I've learned in this new modern era of college football is we don't know. We just don't. So I'm not just taking shots at Herbstreit here, but I'm saying, like, yeah, we think Miami's going to be back. Yeah, we think Indiana's going to be back. With the transfer portal and the NIL, who knows? It might be Texas Tech and Iowa State next year in the national championship. We just don't know, Diesel.
Well, look, when you get to this point in the season, everybody is really good, right? I mean, just because they lost last night in a one-score game on a Carson Beck interception doesn't invalidate the great season that Miami had.
No.
And the great run that they made getting here through the playoffs. It is they're a great football team, and they beat everybody else except for Indiana in this championship game. They went on a run that deserves to be praised. But also, Cole, like, it's just a simple phrase. It's just simple phrasing for Kirk Herbstreit and others. They might be back. They have a good chance of being back. You know, when you're in the legal profession, you have to say words like allegedly quite a bit. Because if you say that man over there is a murderer, then you're painting yourself into a tight legal box. But if you say that man is an alleged murderer, it changes things. It protects you. That's all Kirk has to do. Instead of glossing up everybody saying they will be back, and there's a very good chance that they will be back, say that.
Yeah.
I believe that the base is strong for this team, and I think they have a very good chance of getting back next year.
I just think as a fan, I would like to hear them say, you know what? They've got a good chance, but who knows in this new modern era? Nothing's guaranteed, man. Nothing's guaranteed is all I'm saying. And then, like, Chris Fowler last night, or was it Reese Davis? I get the two mixed up. It was Reese Davis last night. Was doing the trophy, not the prior to the trophy presentation. By the way, shout out to our guy. Was it Clark? Something Clark. We had on the show at ACC kickoff, and he was doing the freaking trophy presentation last night. Wasn't that awesome?
Gosh,
I sent you a picture
of his name.
Rich Clark.
Rich Clark.
He was awesome last night. I was like, hey, there's Rich. We had him on the show. Anyways, Reese Davis gets up there last night. He's talking to Mendoza. And the first thing that Reese Davis said last night was, we do know that Miami's back, and then he paused and he says, well, then we also want to say congratulations to the team that got it done tonight. And I just thought that was kind of like,
it's cheap.
If I'm Mendoza right there, I know he's a good guy. He's a lot better guy than I am, so he wouldn't have done it. I would have said, hey, grab that. No, they're not back. We beat them. They're not back. Don't lean. I don't want to hear that crap. I guess I'm just too much of a competitor.
I get it. I get it. There's too much. It's almost like he had a script written in his mind, and he had to make sure that he got out those copy points before he congratulated the team that won the national championship. Cole, my overreaction is Carson Beck entered the first round of the NFL draft last night and then fell right back out of it.
Oh, boy.
Fell right back out of it. He had an amazing season. Fourth best quarterback in college football this year. But you can't keep throwing picks when it matters the most. Carson Beck in a weak quarterback draft this year. Carson Beck will not go in the first round of the NFL draft.
Ooh, how about that? How about that big, bold overreaction on a Tuesday? I like it. Diesel, let's hop back into the national championship conversation next.